Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our session this morning. I just need to verify that everyone who should be here is here. My name is Adora Ekwemesi, the founder of Kendall Consulting and the HR Nigeria Facebook forum. Today, our session will be on your CV, showcasing your best version. So before I start and reintroduce the topic, I would like to make sure that there's some people online at least. I've been trying to log in for about half an hour and I keep getting disconnected. Some of you might have seen the last short live session. So can I just be sure that I'm connected this time? If I can just get one person say hello, and then we could start quickly. So just to reiterate, yeah, I think I can see a couple of people are live, so that means we're broadcasting. So just to reiterate, welcome again. My name is Adora Ekwemesi, the founder of Kendall Consulting and the HR Nigeria Forum. Today, we'll be actually taking on a very, very interesting topic. You may have seen some articles I've written on it already. So today we'll be talking about your CV, showcasing your best version. So the focus of this session is going to be, of course, things that you should do to ensure that your CV is a big part of your showcasing of yourself and the job application process to ensure that you do get interviewed at least. And we will also talk about things that you shouldn't do, which may have been hindering your job application process. So I'm going to start with talking about things that you shouldn't do. Because I think that everyone who is applying for a job definitely has a CV. I don't believe there's anyone who doesn't. And some of us here, frequently send out CVs. And some of us may not have been as successful. You might have been sending out lots of CVs and you're wondering, why am I not being even called for an interview? So I'm going to focus on certain things that will help us at least even increase our probability of actually being shortlisted. So I'm going to start with some things that may be obvious to some, but the truth is that we're all at different levels of the job application process. So there's a term that I use, which is called your CV being dead on arrival. Before, some people don't even get the chance to actually even be considered at all because they've done certain things that don't even allow them to be shortlisted in the first place. So I'm going to start with those things and say, please avoid doing these things in the first place. Please, first things first, avoid sending your CV, particularly because, quite a number of recruiters still request for an application sent via email. Of course, if there's a portal in which you're submitting your job application through maybe a company's website, that's a different process. But I would like to still believe that so many applications actually sent via email. So my first request is for job applicants, please do not send an email with no subject. Now, some of you might be saying, oh, how? I mean, of course, that's impossible. I mean, I would definitely put a subject, this and that. But the truth is, I see so many applicants, they still make this mistake. Maybe they're rushing, maybe it could be anything. There's just no subject in the subject field of the email. I mean, first things first, a recruiter or an employer is unlikely to even open up the CV in the first place. Okay, yes, so some people do actually even put a subject, but if you don't put in the right subject, it's also detrimental to your application process. Sometimes I see CVs, CV subject, the subject field with forward, which is showing evidence that you've been forwarding. Nobody needs to see that evidence, even though you are actively job seeking. Please avoid, if you're going to forward a CV, no recruiter or employer actually wants to see a long trail of applications that you've been making. So please be conscious of it. Now, so someone might ask, so what should actually be in the subject field? Most recruiters or employers will have instructions, and they will say things like maybe include the job reference or the your name. Usually they'll ask for a reference. So follow the instructions of the application. Some candidates don't even follow the instructions, in the sense that maybe they don't read till the end, or they don't read the application instructions thoroughly. So please always look at the application's instruction on subject field. If it says include the job reference and the job title or if it just says include the job title, please do that. Now, what happens if there's no instruction? Then you have options, but good options are to include the job title and, in the subject. So you would, for example, if you were applying for an administrative assistant position or an HR manager position, you could write in the subject, because they didn't tell you what exactly to put in the subject field. You could say, application for human resources management position. You could say that. I mean, that would be fine. You could put in the job title is key. If somebody asked you to send you their CV, and it was for no position in particular, what you could do was put your name, like maybe your name is Janet Henderson. You would put your name, Janet Henderson, CV, so that the person knows whose CV it is. And this is just because they know you personally. So please, subject field should never be left blank. And where there are instructions on the subject field, please use that. Otherwise, your application will be not even considered, because it wouldn't even be open. Now, the second thing you should avoid, you've passed through, you've gotten a good subject in your email. The second thing you should avoid is no content in the body of your email, or inappropriate content, or too little content. A lot of people ask me these days about cover letters. There's nothing wrong in writing a cover letter, but when people open an email, the first thing that they see is the subject and the body of the email. The body of the email is an opportunity for you to say something about yourself. I particularly advise people to put the content of their cover letter in the body of the email, unless there are instructions that say otherwise. Remember, the topic here, just to remind us, is your CV showcasing your best version. You're competing against so many people. There's so many applications per job. If a recruiter, remember, I mean, a lot of research says that, recruiters look at your CV for about 6 seconds before deciding whether or not to proceed or not. You only have 6 seconds. So you can just imagine your application came via email. They've opened your email. The first thing they see is the subject and the body of the email. That is an opportunity for you to showcase your best version. So what would you do? Put something compelling in the body of the email. Don't waste that opportunity. Put something important, don't just say, find my CV attached. I mean, that's like a wasted opportunity. Okay, fine, the recruiter can open your CV and look at it, but imagine someone who from that point already had something interesting to say about themselves. Maybe they introduced themselves, they're giving you the reason why they think they're the best person for the position. I mean, I read the body of emails. That is me, and I'm sure that a lot of recruiters would also do that. It's an opportunity to gain insight into the candidate. So any opportunity you get, so don't leave it blank, and don't say find attached. Don't say, if you're going to say something that would help your application process. So that's the second thing. So these two things, the reason why I've started with these two things is this is the transmission part of, we've not even gotten to your CV, but this is at the beginning. And imagine if you already fail at this point, your CV will never even be looked at. So I'm trying to help us with tips that would even get us to because I don't know the percentage, but I personally, from my experience, a lot of CVs already will never be looked at because they've already failed that process. So your CV was not even a contender in the first place because it was never opened. And then imagine, so you didn't have a subject. I mean, a recruiter probably wouldn't waste their time, because they won't even shortlist you in the first place. You did the body of the email. I mean, that wouldn't be a deal breaker. People will, recruiters will still open, or employers will still open your CV, but you stand a better chance by putting something in the body of the email. So those are my two top things to avoid. So maybe now we can move on to your actual CV. Right. So what's important in terms of your actual CV? What should you actually put it in your CV? First of all, I would say one of the most important things about a CV is actually structure and the actual content of the CV, the way it's formatted. Presentation is key. Remember, you're showcasing your best version. So consider your CV as something you're sending before somebody actually meets you. Now, how or what impression would you like to give? If it's untidy, the formatting is all over the place, people can't read it, it doesn't really make sense because it's not in a good order, that would basically reduce your chances. I mean, there's nothing like people judge. It's just like when people say, they judge a book based on its design or cover. It's the same thing with a CV. As soon as your CV lands and it's opened up, if it's all over the place, like aesthetically, it's not pleasing to the eye. You've already, you're already given a not so favorable impression. If the content too obviously is not relevant, then you're also not helping your situation. So what can we do? First of all, I would say quickly, there's so many templates online, good CV templates. So you could use a good CV template that is clean and fresh. Go online. I believe on the HR Nigeria group, there's actually a template. If you check the files, the folders, there's a CV template. So you can use that one. If that one is not, it's good for all levels. If that one, you don't find that one useful and you want a more specialist one, you can go online and Google CV template. So use a good CV template that has good formatting and presents your CV, in a very nice, well-structured way. Then the second thing is, if you don't have, when we talk about content, what should be the content of your CV? Now, if you have a good CV template in the first place, it would have already been structured according to the content. Now, what should be the first thing? Typically, CV starts with career objectives. Some start with career profile, career summary. Different people start with different things, but they try to give you like an insight of maybe what they want to do or their history so far. I prefer a career objective because it tells the person or the recruiter where you're going. It's good to start with an objective because sometimes some people are switching careers. So even if you summarize what you've done, it's good to say where, what you're interested in, because just putting a career summary just tells what you've currently done. It doesn't tell where you're going. So you could, I mean, if you were an experienced person or if you were a fresh graduate, you might say something like, a recent graduate with of economics or a graduate of this with, you, even if whatever little experience you have, it's important to just give insight into, where you're coming from and where you're going. I think if you're a recent graduate, you can put, that you've just graduated and what you're seeking. Maybe you're seeking a career in human resources, or you're seeking a career in sales or accounting, and just say a few things about yourself. If you're already an experienced person, you can summarize, say, for example, an experienced sales manager with 15 years a sales manager with 15 years experience in the oil and gas industry, seeking a management position where I can, utilize my, whatever it is that you want to showcase. Basically say something that would compel the employer to understand, what you currently have, where you're going, and what you hope to achieve with that. So that's what I would say. I would always say start with a career objective. People call it different things, just to give an indication. Now, the rest of your CV is the body. People ask me, do I start with work experience? Do I start with education? So there are two main things in the body. Your CV, curriculum vitae, is actually your work. I mean, it's a summary of your work-related experience. Now, I say to showcase your best version, you start with what will put your best foot forward. Now, I wouldn't say start with work experience. You can, but what do you have that will work more in your favor? If you went to good schools, you went to Ivy League universities or well-known established universities, and they appear more known than the workplaces that you have actually worked at, then put it first. I mean, if people see that you went to Harvard, for example, I mean, I don't think you'd want to put Harvard when you at the back. You put it. So if you went to a good university in the country and it is more popular than where you have worked, I think it's good to put that first. That would be my suggestion. Whatever works for you. If you worked in multinationals, there's a good brand name of one of the places you worked for, put it first. So there's no hard and fast rules or whether you should put your work before your education. Put what works for you. Some people put their education first and some people put their work first. But if you want to showcase your best version, put what would have more weight or what will work more in your favor. For example, if your work experience is not really so relevant, but your education is more relevant to the application, then of course it's good. It's good to put that, your education first. So that's what I would say. Now, how do you the content? How exactly should you structure the content of even your work experience? Everything you put, work experience, education, always use chronological order from the most recent, if it's so your most recent to the, the earlier years of your experience. So don't start off with your first job. So if you're going to start with your work experience, please don't start with your first job. Start with your most recent job. I still see people make that mistake today. You understand? So please don't put the order of a CV is from most recent to your first. So that is the order. The order of your education is from your most recent. So if you have a master's degree and you have a bachelor's degree and you have an OND, then your master's degree should show first, then your bachelor's, then your OND, not the other way around. The same thing with your work experience. If you've been working for 5 years and you've worked in 2 or 3 different companies, or let's say you've worked for 10 years, you worked in 5 different companies, you want the most recent work experience to be first. So your current job should be the first, followed by your last job, and then all the way down to your first job, not the other way around. Please don't start with your first job because it just shows that you don't really have experience writing CVs. So those are 2 main things, putting your best foot forward. Now, if we go to the actual content now, usually a job is based on a particular role that you're applying for. So in as much as you want to put the experience that you have, always consider the actual job you're applying for. I mean, there's no point sending an application, and one of the things I say you avoid, if you're not qualified, please do not apply for a job. You're not helping yourself in any way. You feel you might be trying your luck. It's just of no benefits. If you're not qualified, you will not be shortlisted. So some people might be saying, no, I've been applying and nobody has called me. Well, ask yourself, are you qualified for the jobs that you've actually been applying for? Because some people they're just applying for roles and they're not qualified. So if you're not qualified and you've sent 100 applications, you're definitely not going to be called because you're not qualified. If it's an unsolicited application, that's a different ballgame altogether. But if it's a particular job, they've put job references. They've said these are the vacancies we have. Apply if you're qualified. If you're not qualified, you're not going to get it. So in terms of the actual work experience, what kind of things or what kind of information should you actually put there? Now, the kind of information is obviously relevant information. And that's why it's very good to study the application. Consider it as a bid. You're bidding for a job or like a contract. Consider it like that. If you're not qualified, why would you apply? And if you're applying because you're qualified, then you need to show the employer why you're the best person for that particular position. So your work experience should show relevance to the application requirements. So if they said we're looking for someone with 5 years experience in accounting, payroll, writing financial reports, budgeting, then if you don't have that experience, you can't showcase it. And if you have that experience, then what is expected of you is that you showcase it on your CV. So you're currently in an accounting position. So all those things that the employer is looking for, you need to showcase them and highlight them much more. I've had situations, and I'm sure I've spoken to quite a number of people about this or written articles about this, where I've had to help people even see the relevance of their work to a particular application. Now, there are two types of skills. There's technical skills and there's non-technical skills. Sometimes some people don't realize that they have experience, in an area, or they have skills in an area, but because of the way they look at their experience, they're not able to draw similarities. So please study the job profile well, and look at it. If it's technical, I don't expect you to apply for a technical role when you don't have the technical capacity. But sometimes there are roles that are not too technical, like customer service, like administration, and a lot of people have done other jobs that have very relevant skills to it. Sometimes I use the example of people who buy and sell. People who buy and sell, they have a lot of skills that are useful to other areas. But if you keep looking at it and thinking, oh, it's just buying and selling. But remember that people that buy and sell, they do a lot of things. You may not be able to qualify for an HR manager role, but surely, if you look at your what you've done, you could qualify for some other roles. And it all depends on the way you structured your CV and you sold yourself. And I've had examples of even early in my career, one of the recruiters I worked with, who applied, I applied for a job through. She asked me to revise my CV because she knew after speaking to me that I had relevant experience for a particular role. So she had a conversation with me, and after we spoke, and she was like, you need to revise your CV to showcase this because this is what is relevant for this role. So you're not saying it's not, you're not trying to change it or do something that is not, you're not lying or anything. You're actually just presenting the information in a way maybe you didn't really think about it. You understand? If I give a practical example, like a lot of people who buy and sell, they have to keep stock. They have to keep stock. They have to search for customers. They have to do some market research. They have to do stock reconciliation. They have to chase debtors. They have to do quite a lot of things. So if you see a job that has some of these things, you also have to have good customer service skills. You have to follow up with customers. So why can't you do a sales role? And if you don't want to do a sales role, if you've developed good skills in customer service while you were doing that, surely, or if you have very good organizational skills, surely you can apply that to a job that requires some of those skills. And so those skills, we refer to them as transferable skills. They're not technical in the sense that, you don't have to go through some very strict training to be good at them, but there are things that you can gain from other professions, like writing. Writing is a transferable skill. Once you have a certain quite a number of jobs write, like consultants write a lot of reports. Quite a number of jobs write. Technical authors or people who are technical writers, they write as well, quite a bit. Some jobs that require like project management, project reporting, they write quite a bit. So you find out that someone who has a good writing, particularly now, social media, content writers, so somebody can move from like some one of those positions if you can showcase that you definitely can do it. I believe where there's a will, there's a way. You have to really, really want it. The other thing is, in your work experience, please show value. What do I mean by show value? People don't want to just see your job description. We want to actually see how much value you added to your current employer. So show value in the sense that, can you show the value that you brought to the role? So it's not just about your work experience and you say, I did this, I did that. Sometimes I just see a list of things that people do. That's your job description. How do you put your best foot forward? Put your achievements. What did you actually achieve? What you achieve is different from what you do. So even if you were in a job that just seemed like a routine administrative job, what did you do while you were there? Were you able to reduce cost? Were you able to improve the revenue? Were you able to help the company in a particular area or solve some problems that were particularly tricky for the company? Those are ways that you showcase that you're a problem solver, you're a valued contributor. This is the reason why the company will want you to join their team. But when you just list, you imagine, just listing what you do, like filing documents, maintaining office database. You're just listing what you do. You understand? Who wants to? It's not really compelling if you just see that someone is saying, I file databases, I do bank runs for the company, I supervise some staff. It's not, those are just rudimentary stuff. What is really interesting would be the achievements that you actually had on those actual roles. So those are the kind of things that we want to be seeing. So I think in summary, I've talked about quite a number of things with regards to what to avoid before your application actually gets to an employer, and the things that you should do with regards to actual content. So putting your best foot forward, think about anything that actually will work for you in your favor. That is what you should actually showcase. So if I have any questions, I will take them as we go now, because I think I've given away quite a bit of the content. I'd also like to talk about some of the things I think you should avoid because they will cause you unnecessary discrimination. Whether we like it or not, one of the things that happens in the recruitment processes is an issue referred to as bias. And I think it's not just the recruitment process, it happens to human beings generally. We do have biases, and when you put certain information, so this is just like a tip, a side tip. When you put certain information, you open yourself to certain biases. And what kind of information is that? Your picture, for example. Yes, I see some people putting their pictures in their CVs. Is it necessary? If you're applying for a modeling job, it may not be a problem. But if you're not a model, how do you know what the employer thinks is you're opening up yourself for discrimination. I've seen a situation where someone wasn't shortlisted because of the way they looked. Why give people that kind of insight where it could work for you, it could work against you? You may think you look very good in the picture, and somebody else may think you don't really look good in the picture. So I'm not saying, of course, these days with LinkedIn, people look at your pictures, but please, if you're going to put a picture, for example, your LinkedIn profile, recruiters use LinkedIn these days, so they'll probably go and check anyway. You must have a picture in your LinkedIn profile. But I'm just saying in your CV, it's not necessary. And if you're going to have one, please put a professional one. But I just hope it doesn't work, against you. But LinkedIn profiles must have a picture. If you have a LinkedIn profile and you currently don't have a picture, you're not helping yourself, because because LinkedIn has a space for a picture, and they expect to see yours. And it doesn't mean that people don't look at people's LinkedIn profile and make people are biased. It's just natural. That's the truth. People make opinions. So if you're going to put a picture, please have a very good professional picture. I mean, I see some pictures on LinkedIn profiles that are not professional at all. LinkedIn is a professional. It's different from Facebook. Facebook people, tend to be casual, show family pictures and things like that. But even on Facebook, if you tend to use Facebook to look for work, then I think you should consider changing your profile picture if it doesn't look professional. I mean, it's okay if you're just using Facebook socially, but if you're on a forum like HR Nigeria, or any other forum that is professional, and you're using it to jobs, search or look for, you will be given, people will judge you. Let me just put it plainly. It may not be right, but you're opening yourself. I'm just trying to be very honest. You're opening up yourself for unnecessary discrimination. Yeah, okay. So I think I've spoken about most of the things that I think that I want to talk about. The only other thing that I would say is maybe address the topic of video CVs. In more recent times, you do see video. I mean, people. When you go and fill in your job applications, some will request for maybe the URL of your video CV. URL just means the website address. It doesn't mean anything. So anytime you see URL, it can be your LinkedIn URL, video CV URL. The URL just means the web address. Now, obviously, the fact that they've said URL, it means one of the things that you need to do in order to have any kind of URL is you need to have some kind of web space. So you need to go online and check. It's either you can have your own website, so that means you have to host your own website, or there are quite a number of websites that allow you host your video CV on their website. So what you would need to do after you've done that, after you've hosted your video CV on their website, you need to take the website address, the link to your own profile, so that you can add it to either your CV or anywhere you're asked for a video CV URL, you include that. Now, they're not as it depends on where in the world you are. They're not as popular they are more popular in the West than they are in places like Nigeria, obviously. So you need to consider whether it's worth you actually doing a video CV. Now, why would it be? Maybe first question: how long should a video CV be? Maximum 2 minutes. So please don't think that you're going to you have to prepare a video. So if you're going to prepare a video, some of the things that you need to think about is, first of all, how long is that video going to be? Now, if you only have 2 minutes to showcase yourself, what are you going to do in those 2 minutes? You have to prepare the background, obviously. Plain background is good, or if you look at this, background I have here, you don't want anything busy. The location has to be noise-free, and you have to practice. I feel, my personal opinion is, because you imagine you're going to be in front of a camera, so you'd have to do everything that you need to do to give a good camera presentation. So the video CV would basically be you introducing yourself and giving the employer a reason why they should employ you for, or proceed with your application. So your formal, how should you dress? Formal. It's an interview. The video CV is an interview. You're giving the employer or recruiter insight into your person. So the tips for a good video CV really are to get a good location, noise-free, a plain background or a background that it doesn't have any distractions, and then present yourself. Always smile in a video. There's no point being serious. Like, when I mean serious, like having a very serious face throughout a video CV. People want, when you're smiling, you just look more approachable. So you'd have to practice. I would say show other people, or maybe professionals, that your video before you actually release it as a video CV. Because the truth is, if you don't do it right, it will actually work against you. I feel that it has the same, unless a particular job is requesting for it. And some roles, particularly in the arts or creative roles, they ask for things like video CVs. But then, and because they want to see you before inviting you. And the truth is, if people see you and you don't give a good presentation, they would immediately not shortlist you. So if you want to do a good video CV, you need to practice. Don't take it for granted. Practice. Shouldn't be longer than 2 minutes. In those 2 minutes, what should you say? Introduce yourself. My name is, don't go into anything personal like family. No, the video CV is not for, or even in interviews, when they ask you about yourself, some candidates do it and it's funny. You start talking about, I belong to a family of 6 and I'm the first child. No, that's not the kind of information. You introduce yourself, your name. My name is, so and so. My name is Jessica Michael. I currently, maybe I'm a graduate of maybe science. I currently work as a, administrative assistant at this firm. I enjoy being an administrative assistant. I first discovered my love for working with people, just something that would showcase you and put you in the best light. So say things about yourself. You remember, you have 2 minutes, 2 minutes to make an impression, unless they give you instructions. So this is, I'm just saying, if you do have instructions on a time limit, it's different. But the truth is, most video CVs, I advise 1 to 2 minutes. And in those 2 minutes, introduce yourself and give a little bit of background, maybe your objective, and tell why you are, the best person for that role. So explain your why. Explain why you're interested in that position and why you should be chosen for that position. And of course, at the end, you have to, just like a letter, you start with a greeting and you end with a greeting. You have to end with a greeting. So, I look forward to hearing from you. You just say something good. There are lots of YouTube videos. So if you Google on YouTube video CV, you will see lots of examples of video CVs, good ones and not so good ones. So I would advise you, please practice. Watch the video several times. Ask people to watch the video, tell you what they think. And if it's not a good video, please don't do a video CV, because video CV is presentation skills. If you're not very good at presenting, then it's going to work against you. So if you're good at it, it will work for you. So that's what I have to say about video CVs. So I'm going to take questions now. Just reiterate the topic. It's your CV, showcasing your best version. So if we have any questions now, just then. Okay, so I have a question from Hello Kuku. I have a question from Kuku Mwogu. Regarding the content of the subject, what can you advise if the person is dropping his or her CV for any open vacancy? Thank you. So the content of the subject, yes, I mean, like I mentioned, it's an unsolicited application. So I feel that, no one asked you for the CV. So if it's just an open application, you're just writing, then the truth is that the subject, did you say the subject? Oh, the content. Oh, just say what you're looking for. Introduce yourself and tell them what you're looking for. So they didn't, you're not applying for any application. Have a nice, and that's what cover letters are for. Have a nice, the content of a cover letter that you would have, which would be introducing yourself, telling them a bit about what you do and what your career ambitions are, and what you're looking to, the kind of role you're wishing to go into. So basically, the content of a good cover letter is what you should put in the body of an email for an unsolicited application. Remember, you're not applying for anything in particular. Your cover letter, if your cover letter was for a particular position, you would edit it for that position. But if it's a general, have a general cover letter, which is not to anyone in particular or not for any particular job. And that's what another thing, and that's a good question. Another thing is always customize. Jobs are different. You may apply for different jobs. Always customize your content for the particular job. Don't use one for all. When recruiters know it when you do that. So make sure that your cover letter is relevant. Yeah. So let me see another question. Trying to look at other questions. Let me see. I'm just trying to scroll if I can see any other questions. I can't see any other questions, so I will take questions. I'm looking at my screen. Another question from Elizabeth Osang. How can you include the position you're applying for in your CV? Or would it be better in the cover letter or the application letter? How can you include the position you're applying for? I believe if they asked you for a particular position, they expect the instructions would be clear where to, if you were going to put the position in the subject, or if you were going to talk about it but you definitely refer to it in the body, and you definitely refer to it in the subject as well. So I would say you all, unless the application instruction says otherwise, the position should be in the subject if it says nothing, and it should also be in the body of the email. You should indicate what you're applying for. Okay, let me see. Do I have any other questions? So those are the two questions. I just want to say thank you to the people who have logged in. I see quite a number of people are here. Thank you very much. So do you have any questions? Right. Okay. I see a question from Oremini Obini. In writing a CV, what if you're applying for a role that you did several years back? Is it right to bring the job role forward in your work experience, or you still put it under the work experience? I'm trying to understand this question. If you're applying for a role that you did several years back, is it right to bring the job role forward? Oh, okay. I understand what she's saying. So what Oremini is saying, that say maybe you're applying for an office manager position, and maybe you currently don't work as an office manager, but you've been an office manager maybe 3 years ago. She's saying, is it right to now put it, maybe the office manager position first, since you're now applying for an office manager, so that you're showcasing your best? No, actually, work experience should be in chronological order. I believe that when they look through your CV, they would find that you have had that job title before, or you have that work experience before. Because if you start moving things around, including your work experience, then there was no order to your CV. I understand what you're trying to do, but with work experience, it's better to be in chronological order. Thank you, Oremini. I'm happy I was able to decipher that question. Thank you. Yes. Olayemi Bamidele is asking, is it proper to include your age, state of origin in your CV? Now, this is a very good question, quite tricky. Now, let me start from a general perspective. Generally, no. Generally, it is not necessary, and you're just opening up yourself for discrimination when you include your age, your state of origin, even your gender, your I'm just trying to think about all the things that they can possibly, even these days, your address. So please, you're just opening up yourself for unnecessary discrimination. But there's a but. But if it is part of the application guidelines that you should be a certain age, which is discriminatory, but we must be honest that there's some discriminatory practices which are not good practices, but it just so happens that some people do that. So if you see a job application that restricts people to maybe age 26 and under, and then you'd have to put in your age, because otherwise you might not be shortlisted. That's the simple truth. But is it necessary? Should you normally? You shouldn't. I don't have any of these things in my CV. They're not necessary at all, because they just open you up to unnecessary discrimination. Okay, I have another question from as an experienced person seeking a top management or senior executive role, what should my CV contain to give me an advantage? Oh, an added advantage, definitely. Oh, if you're top, you're seeking an experience, you're seeking a senior executive role. Definitely, once you're in a senior role, or you're seeking senior, you have to showcase managerial competencies, basically. So what are managerial competencies and managerial qualifications? Now, typically, you have to, from your career profile, if you're an experienced person seeking a senior management position, you must summarize your work experience, showing that you have. So you would be saying an experienced staff, or management staff with 10 years experience in telecoms and leading sales teams. You have to start showcasing from your career objective. You need to start pushing and showcasing your management skills. So once you finish with your objective, you need to showcase other specialist skills that, management type skills. And management type skills will always be around financials. You must be responsible for teams and people who make money and revenue for the firm. You have to showcase those abilities. So you would have, your CV will be different from an entry-level person, because you would have to showcase those competencies, managerial competencies of decision making, of financials, revenue generation, of productivity improvements, of those kind of, you have to showcase them. And then in terms of your work experience, definitely for you, it will not be in your favor if you're writing down tasks, because at management level you should be writing down achievements, and your achievements in relation to managing the business side of things, and managing customer side of things, improving process efficiency, managing teams, motivating teams. Those are the kind of things that you should be showcasing as a management staff. I hope yeah. So if you're applying for management positions, that's how you get an advantage, because the other people in management, they're looking, when you're in management, you manage money, so if you manage finances, you manage people, you manage your customers. So those are the kind of skills you should be showcasing. Yes. Okay. Right. Something I didn't mention that I just mentioned again, please double check your CV for spelling and grammatical errors. That is one of the things that always puts people at a disadvantage. So you can do everything possible. You can have a fantastic format. You can, but once you have spelling and grammatical errors, I can tell you that your chances are very slim. You will, because it will be seen and interpreted in different ways. Please, if you are not sure about your grammar, your spelling, it's better to get your CV professionally done. You can't, you have to, if you have, I'm not saying that people don't make mistakes, because even sometimes after you've looked, it's just a typo. A typo is very different, but your CV, you really can't expect to have typos. So please have it professionally vetted. Because even typos, some typos are not even found by your word application process, your word application. So please, grammatical errors are even more difficult to even find because the words will be technically correct and your spell check will not pick them. So grammar and spelling are very key. So have it professionally proofread just to make sure. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Udeme Achibong, for your nice comments. I see Olaide, thank you. Emeka Vivian, you're saying that for a person who has vast experience in a particular field, even though you didn't study a course related to it, is it advisable for such a person to try building a career in that field? Oh yeah, definitely. Experience counts. Oh, experience counts even more than the course of study. If you have work experience, a lot of us have a degree is just a foundation. A lot of us have degrees that we don't even use. So your degree is not, if you have a lot of experience, that's what a lot of employers are looking for. They're looking for work experience, not your university degree. Your university degree is not work experience. I studied economics. I'm not an economist, definitely. My second degree is in information systems. I think you all know that I'm not in IT right now. So both my first degree and my master's, I'm not doing either of them. So it shows you my work experience for the last 13 years has been in I would say I started in 2000 and I'm just trying to remember 2004. So for the last 14 years, I've been in human resources management as a career, consulting / human resources management. Before then, I was in IT and telecoms. But my work experience in human resources is much more, and yet I studied IT. So that's not even relevant. So, good question. Okay. So that's from Emeka. I see another question asking about, but this is like an interview question. You know, this particular program or this session is about CVs. So I want to answer CV questions. Ayomiku is asking a question on rating your proficiency. What should be your response if you're asked to rate your proficiency? Rate your proficiency on what? The question has to be more specific. Rate your proficiency on what? They'll probably ask you what exactly. And tell the truth. Rate your proficiency. But the truth is that it's a subjective question because some people rate themselves much higher than they actually are. Yeah. Okay, so any more questions? Thank you. Right. Okay, I have a question from Ajinomo Merciful Adinoyi, who says, good morning. I have no experience at all. I just graduated. How can I build a quality CV? Wow, you have no experience at all. I really don't believe there's anyone who has no experience at all. Everyone has some kind of experience. Now, of course, if you're a fresh graduate, you may not have as much as an experienced person on their CV, but you don't have zero experience. I mean, you exist, you're a human being, you wake up every morning, you go somewhere. You know, did you belong to any social clubs? Are you part of any groups at your church, or do you do anything for your community? So your education would obviously be first. After you have a career objective. So please, even as a fresh graduate, you have a vision, you have an objective. So you will have a career objective on what you want to do. Include that in your career objective. Your education, of course, you need to include your education. Your work experience, please, you may want to include voluntary experience. Unless you're saying you don't do anything at all, you must have some experience that you gain from either being in a club, a social group, maybe a position you've had of leadership in any of these groups. You could include that. And if you've just helped your parents in business, whatever, you might be helping your mom, you're helping your dad, or helping one of your aunties or uncles doing something in their business. That is work experience. So include that. Maybe you've never really thought about it. You just thought about it as work, um, but include that. Yes. Yes. So I have a question from Olaide Bakare, who says, are references necessary, please? I mean, there's a section, whether it's necessary to put them in your CV, it's not necessary. But the section references, I mean, you have two options: to include the references. If the instructions ask for references, please, anything the instructions ask for, do. So if the instructions of the application process said include your references, then do so. But typically, you have two options: to say references available on request, meaning that you don't include any references, but should they ask, you will be ready to provide them. And your second option is to get references. But one thing I do find out about people who put references, ensure that the person you have referenced knows that you reference them. I see quite a number of people who do this. They put people as references, and the people are not aware that they're references. And I think you need to tell your referee that you've included them as a reference. And see, next question. Next question is another question from Emeka Vivian. Says, most vacancies insist that applicants should have a degree in a related field. In this case, do you advise that such a person should apply based on the experience, even though he does not have the certificate in that? Follow the instructions. If the application has instructions that says a degree in a related field, then if you don't have a degree in a related field, then don't apply. That's the truth, because that's shortlisting criteria, and it means that they will not shortlist you. Now, why they are using that criteria, I do not know, but the truth is, a lot of times degrees are relevant when they are relevant to the job. But if you have experience is also relevant. So for me, unless I'm looking for a fresh graduate, for example, let me give you an example. If I was looking for a fresh graduate for a bookkeeping role, then a relevant degree will be necessary. If there was no training, maybe plans available. So I could understand where they would say, okay, looking for a fresh degree in a related subject, maybe a numeric degree. But lots of people learn bookkeeping anyway. So the truth is, for entry-level roles, I don't even see why a relevant degree, unless it's a specialist field like an engineering. I mean, come on. If it was going to be an engineering position, they need people who studied engineering. So you can understand that. So there'll be no point. But for most social sciences, I don't think you should actually specify the degree. I don't think it's relevant, unless it's a specialist field, like a psychologist. You want to be a trainee psychologist, then you have to have studied psychology. Okay, thank you. Right. Sorry about that. I have another question from, do you advise your resume should be on a page? One page is if you're summarizing if the instructions ask you for a page, but most people who have experience, their CVs can't go into a page. I think there's a little bit of a description, a difference between a resume and a CV. Resumes are not, CVs are more detailed in terms of your history, the history of your career. If you work for like 10 years in 10 different places, you definitely can't fit that into one CV. So I mean, unless you are doing a short summary, one page is not possible for most experienced people. Like I said, unless there's strict instructions, maybe there's a reason why they want a page and they ask you for a page. But I personally, I don't have my CV in one page. Unless I was asked for a summary or my profile, then I would. And I was specifically asked to do a page, then I could. But if you just ask for my CV, definitely it's not one page. Thank you. Right. I've already addressed this. Maybe you didn't. E.G. Lucy Samuel, I've already addressed about how your experience should be arranged from your most recent experience to your first experience. always in chronological order from your current job to your first job. That's the order of CVs. Right. Yes, Theo Joe asked if a job requires a particular field like accounting, but you have work experience in accounting, can you apply for the job despite not having a degree in that field? Sure. Your experience is very relevant. Very relevant. Sure, you can, unless the application instructions say otherwise. Yeah. Thank you. Right. Okay. So yeah, Emmanuel Michael. Hi, how are you? Yeah, yours is not a one-page CV, I'm sure. Definitely, I don't know how people even manage one-page CVs. I couldn't manage that. I would say that's just a summary. It's not a CV. It's just a brief profile of what you're doing. So if we don't have any questions, we've hit the 1 hour mark, and I want to thank everyone very much for being here on a Saturday morning, and hopefully I've done the best I could with this hour. I just see one more question popping in. It says, should education also be arranged in chronological order? Yes, education should be arranged in chronological order. Everything on your CV should be arranged in chronological order. Always start from your most current to the least current. So you always start from your most recent education. So if you have a postgraduate degree, that will come before your degree, which will come before your diploma, or so always arrange in the order that, because it's dates, so the most recent date first. So without further ado, she says one last one, Elizabeth Osang. Okay, we'll take one last one. Remember, there's some people who will be watching this, and when they see 1 hour, they'll get discouraged. So my aim was to keep it to 1 hour, and we're currently on 1 hour and 1 minute. So Elizabeth, I'm waiting for your question. You said one last one. Okay, no, I think, or was that your last question? Okay, fine. So I want to say thank you to everyone, and I hope that this session has been able to help you with showcasing your best version with regards to your CV. So I'll just do a very quick summary, because I see quite a number of people are here, and some people didn't join us at the very beginning. So a very, very quick recap from the very, very beginning. And that recap is, please, things to avoid so that your CV is not dead on arrival. Things to avoid totally. Please avoid, if you're sending your CV via email, avoid having no subject, nothing in the subject, and avoid having nothing in the content. Avoid, even when you have something in the subject, avoid showing evidence of you having forwarded the CV to several recruiters. Avoid having unnecessary information that was not in the application instructions in your subject. A good subject should have the title and the job reference in it. So those are the two things. Please avoid your content. That's an opportunity to showcase yourself. So put anything, put information that will help you in your application process, help the recruiter want to know who you are. So that's the type of information that you should include in it. So don't miss that opportunity to write something compelling in the body of the content. So those are two things that I think you should focus on. Things to avoid. Generally, I said too much information. Don't put information that will cause you unnecessary discrimination. If it's not asked for in the application process, please don't include your religion, your date of birth, your gender, your state of origin. That type of information is just discriminating. And your age, to be honest, unless it is asked for in the application process, because the truth is, and your picture, it's not necessary. It will just cause you unnecessary discrimination. So, and those are things to avoid. Your CV, what should be in the content, your work, you always have a career objective, have a good structure. Please Google good CV templates, or go to the HR Nigeria group and look for a CV template there. There's one that is put on file on the group. So have a good structure. Have also look out for the format. Make sure you have, but if you use a good template, you're going to have that anyway. So good format, good structure, chronological order. Should you put education before work experience? Put whichever will showcase you better. If you have good work experience in companies that have good brand names, put that first. If you went to fantastic schools that people would recognize and want you as a result of the schools, then put that first. Just put whatever is going to give you a better chance of doing a job. So I mean, those are the key things. Don't do anything. If you're interested in a video CV, please practice, because if you do a poor video CV, it's going to work against you rather than for you. So if you're not very good at presentation skills, practice, practice, practice. Get people to review it and make sure it's fine before you put it up. If otherwise, you'd be doing yourself a discredit. So, I mean, those are things. Those are the things that. So that's it. Somebody's digressing. I'm just going to answer CV related questions. So don't be upset if I don't answer your question. If it's not a if it's not a CV related question, please just forgive me. I just want to stick to the okay. Some of these questions are not related to CV, so please I wouldn't want to answer questions that are not on CV, so that I would just keep to the topic. Yeah. Right. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. So if you don't feel comfortable with the current state of your CV, please ensure that you have it reviewed. And if there are lots of, professionals, or if you can seek help to actually have a good CV review, there are lots of templates that are available in terms of resources. So in terms of your CV, it is your chief representative. So don't underestimate the value that your CV can bring. A lot of employers and recruiters will meet your CV first before they ever meet you. So your CV should be taken very seriously, because it's the one thing that you put in front of you before other people have the chance, right? So on this note, I'm just going to sign off. Just for those who joined late and we may not have met before. My name is Adora Ikwemesi. I'm the founder of Kendall Consulting and the HR Nigeria Forum. You want to contact Kendall Consulting to help you with your CV or your CV reviews, you can contact us via www.kendallconsulting.com. If you're particularly interested in career-related information, or coaching sessions or CV reviews, then you can check out our website, www.kendallconsulting.com/career. That particular page deals with career-related issues and focuses on things like career planning sessions and CV reviews. So thank you very, very much for this time, and have a pleasant day. Thank you. Bye-bye.